Hi, my name is Dr. Pachenik. Let me talk to you about a man whom I know and you know nothing about. His name is Andrew Marshall. He was the director of the Office of Net Assessment. It all sounds very fancy, but the reason I'm bringing up because he is the father of the NeoCons and the implementer and strategist for 9/11, the false flag, and the man who sent our intelligence, the CIA, and our military into harm's way in Iraq. Let me talk about Andy Marshall. Andy Marshall was 97 when he died a few weeks ago, and the Wall Street Journal wrote about how great an American he was. He wrote papers on strategic warfare, and he was one of our great thinkers. Nothing could be further from the truth. I knew Andy Marshall exceedingly well. When I attended Harvard, MIT, I left and I became the DAS for several administrations, as you all know. Henry Kissinger and Andy Marshall were very close. Nixon had appointed Andy Marshall, a man who never served in World War II. Let me repeat it again. He never served in World War II and refused to serve because he had a heart murmur. He could have served in the Korean War. He could have served in the Vietnam War. He could have served in any war he wanted to. But he claimed he had a heart murmur, and he was not allowed to come into the draft. I thought that was nonsense. And I told Andy this, but Andy had a propensity for creating papers that always declared that we Americans had to go to war and be number one. That's how we got to the NeoCons. In 1992, Andy had appointed Zalmay Khalilzad, Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl, Cheney, Bush, and Rumsfeld as the key leaders in the neoconservative movement, meaning that we, America, had to be number one, and Israel would be our co-partner, and we would be involved in wars around the world to make sure that we stabilized and unified the world. Well, you saw what happened in Iraq, you saw what happened in Vietnam, you saw what happened in Somalia, Sudan. This was all the product of Andy Marshall. I didn't like Andy Marshall, and he knew that. The reason I didn't like him, I found him to be slimy. I found him to be stupid. I said to him, I don't think that your papers at the Rand Corporation were anything significant. I think you were a Machiavellian individual who basically filleted everybody above him so he could get into power. How powerful he was? Exceedingly powerful, because you never heard of that Office of Net Assessment. Let me tell you what happened. When I met him, I said to Andy, not only do I not respect you, but I'm warning you that I have monitored you since the day you left Nixon. And I have learned very well from sources and the monitoring we had on you, Andy, up to the point of 9/11 and then beyond, that you were deeply involved with the Mossad. In fact, he was so deeply involved with the Mossad, I had to deal with certain Mossad operatives and sent them to prison, and others I made sure that they never functioned again. And I warned Andy Marshall a year before 9/11. As I walked through DOD, I saw the CIA take over key positions. I saw Doug Fife being put into position, a man who had no credibility in our system. Wolfowitz, Zalmay Khalilzad, a slimy Afghan who's still right now doing our negotiations in Afghanistan, but he was the one who created the war in Afghanistan. We have John Bolton, a slimy little man who's in the White House. We have Elliot Abrams, who I almost killed literally because he had gone against my own people in Panama and elsewhere. And then we had several others who came back. What I said to Andy was the following: you in any way harm our country or you deal with our military, you will pay heavily for that problem. In fact, what did happen is military intelligence monitored me, I monitored them. So let me quote Andrew Johnson, who said the following: disunity within America is treason. But let me quote John Wilkes Booth: sex sempus tyrannis, thus always with tyrant. A coward and a tyrant was Andy Marshall. Good night and good luck.